Our intelligence community has determined that Russia engaged in cyber attacks on the United States to interfere with our election. And several members of the Trump administration and campaign have questionable ties to Russia. There's good reason to believe that President Trump himself has substantial financial ties to Russia, only we don't know the details because he won't release his tax returns. None of this is normal. We're not even 2 months into the Trump administration, and FBI counterintelligence investigations and congressional inquiries have already been launched. Senior officials were caught lying to Congress. A national security advisor resigned in disgrace because he misled White House officials and the FBI about his Russian ties. And in the middle of all of this, Donald Trump incredibly continues to consider lifting sanctions against Russia. Now, last week, a Senate subcommittee held a hearing with ambassadors from 6 European countries: Ukraine, Poland, Georgia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. 4 of these countries are members of the European Union and the NATO alliance. They are all American partners living on the front lines of Russia's destabilizing influences. At this hearing, the ambassadors agreed that the United States should not ease sanctions on Russia unless Putin actually makes some changes. So let me start there. Ms. Rosenberg, if we ignore our allies and partners and ease sanctions without meaningful changes in Russia's behavior, does that increase or decrease Putin's ability to destabilize countries along its border in the rest of Europe and around the world?
Certainly that would increase it. Russia thrives in that kind of environment with its information campaigns and its destabilization conducted through information and funding of political parties. We would throw our European allies under the bus. It would be difficult and damaging to transatlantic unity, which is challenging for our pursuit of our national interests.
Yeah, and let's start with that basic principle that the purpose of sanctions is to discourage and change bad behavior. If Russia stands firm and we drop our sanctions in exchange for nothing, we're just weak. So sanctions work better, as you note, when we coordinate with our allies and our partners. Right now, the United States and the European Union coordinate sanctions on Russia's financial, energy, and defense industries for invading Ukraine's territory and undermining its sovereignty. These sanctions have taken a toll on Russia's economy. The EU's sanctions must be renewed every 6 months, and they did just that, renewing them now until the end of July. Ms. Rosenberg, is it fair to say that it's not easy for the EU to keep doing this, given the close economic ties between Europe and Russia?
Yes, I think that's fair to say, and particularly for some more economically exposed countries than others.
And yet they keep doing it. Why?
For a variety of reasons. I would suggest that they value their unity with the United States and the messaging effect that this has. They want to send a clear signal about what it means to violate Ukrainian sovereignty. And notwithstanding the economic pain for them, they still believe that this project and the self-sacrifice economically is worth it for the political and strategic benefit they may gain.
And I understand from what you're saying here that one of our strongest tools against Russia is joint EU-US economic pressure, that this is much stronger if we are working together. But if the United States unilaterally lifts its sanctions on Russia, which of course then encourages the EU to do the same, how effective will US and European efforts be to hold Russia accountable?
Well, it may be very difficult to reestablish a united transatlantic front with economic measures towards Russia, particularly given the nationalist political currents that are more prominent now than they were in 2014. So that's one primary problem that will be an impediment. Also, I would just suggest that the U.S. and the EU will lack credibility if they try and do this again, because we look fickle if we impose and then remove, particularly with no behavior change on the part of Russia.
Fickle and weak. Congress must be able to review any attempts by this president to roll back our sanctions against Russia. I've co-sponsored legislation that would do just that. We still don't know what's going on with this administration's ties to Russia, but as we wait for the facts to come out, strong congressional oversight is needed to ensure that the President doesn't throw away our leverage against Russia for nothing. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.